Hello, Recapped Mystery here. Today, I'm going to explain a drama, sport, action film, warrior. Watch out and take care. Tommy Ridley pays a visit to his grandfather, Paddy. 14 years later, Paddy claims there are no more women for him, and the house lacks a feminine touch. It must be difficult to find a woman who can take a punch these days. Paddy offers Tommy a coffee, but all he wants is a drink with him. Paddy is a recovering alcoholic who will shortly reach 1,000 days sobriety. Tommy shifts the entire tone of the conversation to Paddy being an abusive spouse to his mother, and Pops can hardly contain himself. Tommy's brother, Brendan Conlon, gets transformed into a princess for his daughter's birthday. Tess, his wife, is irritated with him for exceeding the family's gift budget. After the celebration, she goes to her job at a pub, leaving Brendan in charge of putting the girls to bed. If he waits for her tonight, she will reward him for his good behavior with some activity. A broadcast on MMA Live airs at Colt's gym about millionaire Riley throwing an MMA Super Bowl called Sparta with a $5 million winner-take-all event. Tommy comes inside the gym where he used to train and purchases a monthly membership. He spots a sign advertising the Sparta competition. Tommy is working out alone until he notices someone dubbed Mad Dog bragging over beating a chump. Colt, the gym owner, requests another combatant and offers him $200. Tommy offers to fight Mad Dog but is rejected down. As he returns to his bag, Mad Dog taunts him, and Tommy turns around and pleads Colt once more to let him fight. Colt claims responsibility for anything that occurs. It will not be a problem because he signed a waiver. The fight begins with Mad Dog on the defensive. One of the onlookers films the fight as Tommy dismantles Mad Dog. He throws him to the ground and, after many knee strikes to the face, knocks him out with a knockout punch. Tommy turns to Colt and requests the $200. The crowd is stunned at how quickly he won. Brendan is a physics instructor. In an amazing experiment, he illustrates Newton's second law. His class adores him. Brendan goes to the financial advisor after school, who informs him that his mortgage payments are late. He had to take out a mortgage to pay for his daughter's heart transplant. The advisor appears to be dismissive of the problem, telling Brendan that he has 90 days to pay off the debt. Brendan will be unable to do so, so the counselor advises him to file for bankruptcy or face foreclosure. Paddy is viewing old film of Tommy in a wrestling contest. At the time, he had won 7 gold medals. Paddy was his divisive coach, in everyone's opinion. Colt is standing at his front entrance, looking for Tommy. Paddy wonders what he has to do with him. Colt explains that Tommy defeated the world's #1 middleweight contender and that he is only interested in general information about him. Paddy simply says that if you want to know anything about Tommy, you'll have to ask him yourself, and then shuts the door. Brendan is on the phone with his wife, telling her that he's going to work as a bouncer at a club at night. He genuinely participates in a parking lot MMA battle with the mutilator Mike to gain additional money. Mike begins the battle by looking nimble and landing a great punch. Brendan swiftly counters with a few of his own and manages to knock him down. Brendan wins the fight by repeatedly punching Mike in the face while he is down. As their favorite loses, the crowd boos him. Paddy says of Colt and himself, "The devil you know is better than the devil you don't." He offers to train him the old-fashioned way, but he must discontinue the medications. Paddy is well acquainted with his son. Everyone at school is talking about teacher Brendan and how one of his kids witnessed him in an MMA battle. When he walks into class, they observe his black eye and confirm it. He starts class, but the principal, Joe, summons him to his office. Joe discloses that the superintendent is on his way and demands an explanation. Brendan used to fight in the UFC for a living. He must have forgotten to include that on his resume. When the superintendent arrives, Joe tells Brendan that if he wants to keep his job, he must guarantee that it would not happen again. Brendan tells Tess at home that he has been suspended from teaching until the next semester, without compensation. To keep them afloat, he advises resuming low-level combat. She objects, but believes there is no other option. Brendan goes to the gym and runs into an old friend, Frank. Frank apologizes for his absence and is delighted to meet him. Brendan informs Frank about the bank threatening to take away his home and wants Frank to help him get back on his feet. Frank simply informs him of the facts. Brendan is a teacher who, even at his best, did not perform effectively. Frank does not believe he has what it takes to face professional boxers rather than randoms in parking lots. Brendan claims that he desperately needs it and that Tess is aware of it. Frank agrees, but he won't be able to train him constantly because he'll be busy practicing with Marco for the Sparta tournament. Brendan is satisfied with that. Paddy pays a visit to Brendan in the evening, who is not pleased to see him. Paddy says that today is his 1000th day sober and that he only wants to enjoy a dinner with Brendan, but Brendan refuses to do anything with him because just because it's a special day for you, doesn't mean it's a special day for me. He starts walking away but stops when Pops says Tommy is returning. He's at his house, and they're working out together. Brendan is silent because Tommy, his brother, has not spoken anything to him. He's also upset because they're training as if nothing has happened. Tommy has always been Pop's favorite kid because he was more better at fighting, but even so, he never trained Brendan, which still stings. Paddy begs him to forgive him and find space in his heart for him. Brendan forgives him, but he still does not trust him. He closes the door on him in cold blood. Tommy rushes to the gym, where Colt informs him that he has gotten him into the Sparta competition. Later, he phones a woman to check on her and assures her that he has not forgotten his pledge. Tommy had been in the army with her spouse and had pledged to look after his widow when he died. Tommy and Brendan have both been trained, and word has spread about the Sparta tournament's peculiarity. Out of the 16 fighters, there will be only one victor. Koba, a Russian fighter who has never lost a battle, is in the mix. Tess notices the Sparta event on TV and the man everyone is following. Koba. Brendan spars with Marco, Frank's top Sparta challenger, and Marco taps out. 4 weeks of training pass, and one day Frank phones an ambulance because Marco has been in an accident. Frank is informed in the hospital that Marco will be unable to participate in the fight. Brendan approaches Frank and offers to take Marco's place. Frank is skeptical, but agrees to make some calls and see what he can come up with. Brendan receives a call from Frank the next day informing him that he has gotten him into Sparta. Tess is enraged since he took this decision entirely on his own. It's not about the money, she's afraid he'll be paralyzed or worse, dead. Brendan claims that if he does not attempt, the bank will take their house away in 3 weeks. Brendan wants Tess to back him up, but she refuses to watch him fight again. The Sparta Super Bowl is in full swing, and the world's fiercest middleweight combatants are coming to prove who is the strongest. Brendan is not even regarded as a danger. Tommy and Brendan meet in the lobby, but Tommy chooses to avoid his brother. Tommy is shown to be not only a dark horse in the Sparta Cup, but also a hero in the Iraq War. On camera, one of the troops recognizes him and praises him for saving his life. Tommy is irritated by this and goes for a walk. Brendan and Tommy meet outside, keeping their distance and being uncomfortable. Brendan offers to have coffee, but his brother declines and claims he is fine here. Tommy abandoned the family 14 years ago, but Brendan stayed for Tess. He shows Tommy photographs of his family, but dismisses him. Tommy does not consider Brendan to be his brother because he chose Pops and a girl over him and his mother. Brendan claims that he has forgiven Pops, just as he has Tommy and Mom. "You forgave us?" Tommy exclaims. Brendan was the one who failed to carry out the plan. Tommy scolds him for being a jerk and then walks away. Sparta is here. The stadium is packed with fans eager to witness the largest mixed martial arts spectacle in history. Tommy competes in the first round, becomes an overnight phenomenon, and is even dubbed a war hero, but no one knows who he is. Tommy is unsearchable. He avoided all interviews, has no sponsors, no entrance music, and has not even had his photograph taken. Tommy defies every rule and remains the audience's favorite. They exchange gloves, and the pundits believe Tommy is here by chance. Tommy simply approaches his opponent and knocks him out. Another rule is broken when he exits the cage like a boss without hearing the judge's decision. Brendan is the next opponent. Frank creates him. Brendan appears when Beethoven's music begins, and his father tells him to win. Brendan is not a fighter, according to the commentators, who compare him to a goldfish tossed into a shark tank. The fighters exchange gloves. The fight starts off significantly differently than Tommy's. Brendan is thrashed and even thrown around, while the teacher's supporters watch nervously. Brendan is put in a chokehold. Frank yells at him not to tap out with 10 seconds left in the first round. He barely makes ends meet. Jess is concerned as she waits for her husband's text with the results and continues to refuse to watch the game. They exchange punches in the second round, and Brendan manages to put his opponent in an arm hold. The pundits are taken aback, and his father simply mumbles to himself that he can do it. Brendan's opponent taps out, giving him his first victory. Joe can't keep his excitement in check. Brendan demonstrates excellent sportsmanship, and the commentators feel it was a fluke. Jess is still waiting impatiently when she receives a message. "I won." She is delighted for him. Koba decimates his opponent, leaving only 7 combatants. Jess cannot simply sit and wait. She observes the fight as Brendan barely survives. I mean genuinely survives the first round until he locks his opponent in an arm hold and taps. Another victory for the physics instructor. Tommy, like Koba, crushes his opponent in less than 10 seconds. He advances directly to the final 4. Tommy is unable to sleep, and Paddy approaches him. He is proud of what he accomplished for the soldier in Iraq. Tommy is not proud, it turns out, because he deserted from a unit and just managed to be in the right location at the right moment. Paddy tries hard to connect with Tommy and understand him, but all he gets is the response, "Spare the father routine. Doesn't fit you, Pop." The only thing Tommy and Brendan have in common is that they despise Paddy. Tommy dismisses Pops, claiming that he liked him better while he was intoxicated. Paddy is devastated. He reverts to his previous personality, babbling rubbish from the audio tape. Guilt-ridden Tommy cuddles and comforts Pop. When the fight begins and only 4 fighters remain, the audience chants Tommy's name exclusively. Tommy is fighting today without Paddy. His opponent is Mad Dog. He wishes to avenge the humiliation he suffered during their sparring session. He is certain that Tommy will be killed today. The fight begins after an intimidating glare that Tommy does not return. Mad Dog is quickly thrown down, and Tommy simply crushes his face, while Colt screams for the fight to halt. Another fast win. Brendan's opponent is the overwhelming favorite, Russian Koba. Brendan has a 1,000 to 1 chance of winning. Tess, his wife, is here to support him. They exchange gloves, and the fight begins with Koba inflicting heavy damage on Brendan, who returns a strike but appears useless. Punches Brendan is nearly knocked to the ground each time. Before the first round is up, Koba drops him and lands a few more. The second round begins in the same manner, with Jess unable to observe. Brendan is being thrown around like a rag doll. Joe and his students are concerned. The second round concludes. Frank informs Brendan that if they are not here to win, he will throw in the towel. The third round is his last chance to knock Koba out, or he would be homeless. The third round begins with determination in his eyes. Koba slams him down and puts him in a chokehold. Brendan reverses the situation by flinging Koba over him and putting him in a leg lock. Koba taps out, ending the tournament's favorite. Brendan will face Tommy in the finals. Tommy has been reported to have deserted as a soldier, and he will be arrested following today's Sparta final. If he wins, he wants his slain comrade's wife to receive the proceeds. People are only now realizing that Tommy changed his last name to his mother's. Tommy and Brendan are brothers who are competing in the biggest MMA battle ever. Brendan gets the support of everyone around him, whilst Tommy fights alone. They start fighting, and Tommy, as usual, beats Brendan up with his precise and swift maneuvers. Brendan is thrown to the ground and punched repeatedly. Tommy lands a punch on Brendan at the end of the first round, and the audience becomes enraged at the foul play. Frank calms Brendan down and gives him some tips on how to move more, and they move on to round 2. They engage in a ferocious punching match, which Tommy plainly wins as he pins him to the ground. Tommy gets on top of Brendan again at the start of round 3, but is swiftly knocked down in an amazing arm lock. Brendan dislocates Tommy's shoulder to conclude round 3. Tommy yells in pain but refuses to give up. Before the following round, Brendan asks Tommy if he's crazy to fight with a dislocated shoulder, but Tommy doesn't care. It's as if he's punishing himself. Brendan will not fight him. Paddy arrives at the stadium to find his 2 sons in a dreadful predicament. It's no longer a conflict. Instead, Brendan is putting on a one-man performance. Tommy surrenders, but it's too late. Round 4 is over. Paddy offers Brendan the approval he's been looking for all these years, but he still doesn't come to Tommy's aid as a trainer. Tommy is overcome with emotion because he has no one on his side. Brendan decides to finish the fight at the start of the final round, despite Tommy's opposition. He throws Tommy down and chokes him, begs his forgiveness, and repeatedly tells him that he loves him, until Tommy ultimately taps out. Brendan's wife, the kids, and Joe are all overjoyed. Brendan took home the $5 million prize. He helps his brother up, hugs him, and promises to always be there for him. The fight has reunited a fractured family. The end. Please subscribe to assist the channel, turn on notification and leave a like. Thank you for taking the time to watch. See you again soon.